Hello, Tide fans. Welcome to Tide Talk. I'm your host, Sean Taylor. Back for another week of Alabama football. Got my buddy Jimmy in the studio today. Maurice is joining us on Zoom down from Panama City Beach. What's up, Maurice?
Not much. What's up with you? Just on my front porch. Found a snake out here the other day. So if you see me doing this all day, that's why.
Be careful of those no-shows.
I hear you looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, it was a poisonous one about that big. I think it's called a garden snake. So
Yeah, they'll get you if you're not careful, Mo.
I know.
Hey, that's why you need a cat, Maurice. You can keep those things away.
I do try to keep cats around.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
Maurice, we were just talking, like, no game to really talk about, but there's a lot of things going on. Some big games this weekend. Jimmy and I were just discussing, East. It's got some good games going on to try to determine who we're going to play. And yes, I'm throwing that out there because I believe we're going to run the table. I think we'll win the West, and we'll see who we're going to play from the East. But a big game coming up for us this weekend. Road game, always good to play in Death Valley. A lot of excitement. Very, very loud place to play. Hopefully we've prepared for that. The last couple of times we've played on the road hadn't been as kind as we'd like for it to be. But a big weekend this weekend in college football.
It's a huge weekend with, I love college football and everything. Of course, Alabama takes precedence over everything, but there's a lot of things that are happening this weekend that could or will impact the first Saturday in December as far as who's representing. Us on the road has not been favorable for us this year. Georgia and Tennessee are going at it. I don't know who you're rooting for there, but I have my thoughts. And it's going to be a huge, huge weekend.
Jimmy?
Not to mention, one more thing for what's happening right down the road.
True, very true. I figured we'd talk
boy's name
as well.
Jimmy's boy's name is Bimmin.
Is something going on down the road? Did I miss something?
There's a little bit going on.
No, so talking about this weekend, yeah. So, traditionally, we haven't really struggled that much at LSU, traditionally. But like we've already said, this team, and even if you date and go back to last year's team, for whatever reason, man, we just struggle on the road. I don't know why. We again, in the past, we have not. Hopefully, we've got some things figured out there. We can play a little more consistently, come Saturday night. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to be curious to see how we show up and how we prepared with the week off.
Seems to be the word that we've thrown around all year, consistency. I think part of the reason for the past couple of years that we may have not played as well on the road is attitude. I mentioned it in the last show. I wanted to see attitude. We don't have that Alabama attitude, anymore. Like, we used to enjoy going to people's places and just dominating them and shutting the crowd up, taking the crowd out of the game. And we don't see that this year and maybe last year as much. And so I think that's one of the reasons that a lot of folks are talking about, Alabama kind of being down this year and Alabama maybe not reaching the playoffs and Nick Saban's lost it and the dynasty's over and blah, 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 blah. I think Alabama, the team, I think there's sometimes the team should hear those things, to just maybe have them do a self-check and motivate them a little bit. I don't think there needs to be external, motivation. I think there is enough motivation internally, and we call it intrinsic motivation, but this team seems to struggle with that. Maurice, you've talked about it before, just the way our guys approach the game, the way they play the game, not with as much attitude and passion. And, I think we've seen that this year.
Well, there's a hunger that comes from the spring and the summer, and that hunger drives you during your winter workouts, your spring ball, everything. And you can't just flip it on, right? It's an attitude. It's a mindset. Go back to 2020. That team felt so disrespected that in 2019, they didn't even make it to the SEC championship. That team was as laser focused as you can get. I don't see that right now with this team. Maybe tomorrow, Saturday night will be the telltale sign, in my opinion. You come out, and to Jimmy's point, since I guess the 60s, we've always had, one time we tried to claim that we had ownership papers in Death Valley because they never beat us there. And this team, what bothers me is the fact that the crowd gets in their head even before they come out of the tunnel, like they were saying against Tennessee. We used to thrive on that. Right. And to say that you had anxiety, hey, you may want to go back and do some self-evaluation.
I'll say this, when I looked at this year's schedule, when it came out, there was really 3 games that I was like, man, those are going to be tough. Arkansas, at Tennessee, and at Ole Miss. This game was, man, with everything that that happened in the offseason at LSU, with the coaching changes, with the players leaving, and just all the NCAA cloud kind of over their head, I was not sweating going to Baton Rouge this year. Well, now
that's changed,
and now that's changed because they're playing as good as anybody. Hats off to Kelly down there, getting those guys to where they are right now. Of course, we're a 12.5 point favorite, so somebody thinks we're going to win the game, and we should. But it's not going to be that easy kind of cakewalk that I thought it would have been when the season started. That's for sure.
Maurice, what do you think is the biggest key for us? Do you think it's the same performance defensively that we saw against Mississippi State and maybe better, or do you think you need to see more from the offense?
Well, there's always something because the offense still hasn't proven anything to me. There's the passing game, although, Bryce has good numbers, I'm still looking for those 1 or 2 receivers. Defensively, you have to keep their quarterback in the pocket. I don't know the condition of his knee. He hurt it a few weeks ago. He's played through it. He had an off week just like we did, so maybe he's 100%. But you can't let this guy get outside the pocket, keep him contained. And I think if we, stop the run, that pretty much shuts them down altogether.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I was talking to Blaze in the LSU Ole Miss game 2 weeks ago. And look, the Daniels kid has a very, very strong arm. I watched him make multiple throws from opposite hash all the way over the sideline, and he's throwing those on a dime. So the kid's talented.
Right.
We have to be able to influence his ability to do that. We have to get some pressure on him. We've got to play the receivers like I feel like we can. We saw that against, Mississippi State and Will Rogers. I mean, Kool-Aid and Ricks, which I hear is supposed to get the start. I mean, we were locked down now. We were playing some really tight man-to-man coverage. We were challenging the slant pass. We hadn't kind of seen that all year, that people have been getting that slant, and it looked like we were 2 or 3 yards away. We were challenging slants. So we're going to have to affect this guy, because if he sits back there and has time, he's going to pick us apart.
Well, any decent quarterback will. And to your point, I think this kid is better than what his numbers say. He's had some struggles early on running for his life back there, but I think they're getting into a little bit more comfort zone and everything that they're doing. You can't, we can't let him get into a rhythm.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a break here in just a second. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about the LSU game. We're going to talk about our defense. Nick Saban has high regard for Brian Kelly. He thinks he's a fantastic football coach, and statistically speaking, he is. So let's take a quick break. Hold your seats, Tide fans. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
I know Beam. I used to watch cartoons and sports on their TV, and now I use their internet.
Take it from Javion Cohen, all SEC team offensive lineman.
Beam, it's the choice of champions.
Like Javion said, it is the internet choice of champions. Beam, bringing East Alabama more.
What is community? Is it a neighborhood? The businesses and homes inside it? Maybe community isn't just a place. Maybe it's a state of mind that when we care together, cheer together, we're closer to what really counts. At Beam, we're finding new ways to bring us all closer. And you'll find us right out there with you, because community is always on our mind. Beam, bringing East Alabama more.
All right, welcome back, Tide fans. Maurice, we were just saying right there at the end, Jimmy, you can chime in as well. I think the game is going to be dictated by our defense. Yes, I need to see us do some things offensively, but I think we're good enough offensively that if our defense will get off the field, give our offense a chance, I think we have a good enough offense. I think we're going to see us do some different things, but I think it starts with the defense.
Yeah. So if you look at college football, the landscape now, there's not too many programs that does not have a mobile quarterback. I mean, in the SEC, about every team in the SEC has got that mobile quarterback. So it's not something that we're not used to seeing. Correct. So again, it's going to come back to the scheme. Who's going to make those adjustments? Again, we talk about that every week. We obviously made those adjustments and we schemed against Mississippi State as good as we've had all year long with it. But you go back a week before, and it was the worst scheme we could have possibly come up with against the Tennessee team. So again, what are we going to come up with regarding that? Yeah, the guy's very talented. He is somebody that we, again, didn't think was going to be a problem, but now he is in that offense. So yeah, you're right. But what is Golding going to do? What is Saban going to do to have us ready from a schematic standpoint to have us ready?
So what you're saying is it's not what team shows up, it's what coach shows up.
Yes.
Maurice?
I concur. I've been saying for years, we have the number one recruiting class almost every year. And if it's not number one, it's 2 or 3. So the talent is there. So if it's the talent and you got talent and you've evaluated it properly, case in point, Rick's that great transfer pickup for us. I mean, just looked phenomenal last week. I just love the way he looks. But you got to give the players a chance by putting them in the right spot.
That's right.
I agree with you. If our defense comes in there, a great defense can quiet 86,000, drunks in Baton Rouge. And if you don't believe me, you go to a game there. If you don't have a bottle, they'll give you one when you walk in. So I don't ever care to go back. It's a little wild down there for me. So, but it'll shut them up.
Yeah, I think it starts with the defense, but LSU's playing well. They're playing well defensively. They have some consistency offensively. The quarterback's playing well. I need to see our offensive line control the game. We need to be able to run the football. We need to be able to give Bryce Young some time. As I mentioned in last week's show, it seemed like the passes that we were completing, the plays that we were making downfield was because he was scrambling in the pocket and then we would get a receiver open. I want to see us have some open receivers. I'm hoping that Harold gets an opportunity. We saw him last Saturday, not this past Saturday, but against Mississippi State for a couple of plays.
Caught one pass.
He is, supposed to be gaining more and more knowledge and confidence in the playbook. I'd like to see him be that guy that we've been talking about all year. Somebody that has speed, that can catch, that can take the top off. And then mix with some of the other guys. Maurice, you mentioned our best receivers right now appear to be freshmen. Kobe Prentice is doing a really good job, and Isaiah Bond is playing well. And I'd like to see us put a full package together, if you will, a full offensive package from the line to the quarterback, to the receivers, to the running back, and then see how we fare. And then, if we get beat and we play as well as we can play, I'll take getting beat.
Well, back, years ago, you used to talk about being balanced, and for a while, for the longest time, Alabama really was balanced. From running the ball and throwing the ball. Well, since we've had these, phenomenal quarterbacks over the last few years, and especially with Bryce now, I feel like even though we do have those moments where we have those rushing yards, but it's a lot of times our rushing statistics depend on those gash plays, big plays where we don't. So I don't really see us sustaining those drives. 3 or 4 yards here, 2 or 3 yards there, getting first downs. So I'd like to maybe see us go back to a little bit of that. I think when you go on the road, I think being able to be balanced, being able to run the ball, control the clock a little bit, I think that's a key factor in having success on the road.
Yeah, and listen, it starts up front. We've had some struggles up front. I don't know if it's just chemistry. I don't know if it's, we're not executing correctly. Whatever the case might be. If it's the center, I believe Dalcourt's back at center right now. For whatever reason, I like Seth as well, but Dalcourt's back at center. But I want to see us, dictate the game up front. If we want to run the football, we do. If we need to pass the football, we can. And we really haven't seen that truly all year long, not from an offensive perspective. Maurice, do you agree with that?
Well, I agree 100%, but it makes me go back and y'all kind of, make fun of me, the fact that we don't have I like a B-Rob. I like a Najee Harris.
Yeah.
I dang sure like a Derrick Henry. And we don't have that. And I don't know if that's influencing Bill O'Brien's play calling on always running stretch plays because, Gibbs is incredible talent. He's got that speed. But is it really enough to go, between the guards?
Yeah.
Right. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And I also think we kind of talked about it last week, and I went back and started thinking, there's a reason that we're really not stretching the field the past 2 or 3 games because of the shoulder. Is it like, let's let it heal some more. Let's not put too much stress on it. I don't know, because there's a lot of short passes. It's not even bubble screen, so to speak, but there's a lot of short passes that we're not stretching the field. And I think they may know this, and that's why you see safeties cheating up. Now, I don't know what you'll see Saturday night with LSU, or if they think, if they gotten some other type of report on Bryce Young. Jimmy may know more about it than either of us as far as what his condition is, but is it well enough to where he's at 100% and we can really use his arm to use the full package? So
I'll tell you this. In the game against Mississippi State, there were a few balls that he threw away that his arm had to be feeling well because, he threw them across the field, into the sideline, and they weren't, easy throws. It's not like he just tossed them over there. So, but I do agree. It could be that they're protecting him a little bit. They're not, trying to rush him back if he's not 100%. So I get that. But
to answer your question, Mo, all indications are that he is 100% healthy. There shouldn't be any reason to not
open it up.
Yeah.
Do
what we need to do as far as stretching the field.
Well, I was just surprised in the last game where they had made mention about all the rehab that was still going on, even the device he wore during classes to, massage it some because he was still having issues. I thought it was behind him. So it just gave me cause for concern.
And that could be precautionary or just kind of giving him a comfort level. But I do agree we got to be able to stretch the field. We got to be able to make safeties honor us throwing the deep ball. We haven't done it a lot. We haven't done it a lot all year long. And so we've got to do that, in my opinion. I'm not the offensive coordinator, clearly, but we got to be able to do that. But we also have to have the receiver that is willing to compete for that ball, to compete to get open.
Right.
And we've said it over and over. We haven't seen that. So let's take another break. Let's come back and do the last segment. We'll talk about the LSU game. We'll also talk a little bit about what your thoughts are on the Georgia-Tennessee game over in the East, because ultimately that could be who we play in. So Tide fans, hold your seats. We'll be right back with Tide Talk.
Beam is delivering gig speed internet to 100% of our network. But should you get a gig? Well, if you want to download an album in a blink, video conference in 4K, make virtual reality more real, power all of your home smart devices at the same time, and still have bandwidth to stream everything without buffering, then yeah, you got to get a gig. So call, click, or visit and get it. Because when you got to get a gig, you got to go with Beam, bringing East Alabama more.
I know Beam. I used to watch cartoons and sports on their TV, and now I use their internet.
Take it from Javion Cohen, all SEC team offensive lineman.
Beam. It's the choice of champions.
Like Javion said, it is the internet choice of champions. Beam, bringing East Alabama more.
All right, Tide fans, welcome back. So last segment, Maurice, Tennessee, Georgia, East, little battle going on. Makes a big difference in if we run the table and we have all expectations to do that. Playing over in Athens should be a really, really good football game. Not just because Tennessee beat us. Tennessee's playing as well as anybody in the country. I'll just be honest. I have several Georgia fans that are friends of mine. We play ball with a lot of guys that are Georgia fans. I'm still not sold on Georgia, and maybe it's because Tennessee put 52 on us and beat us. I don't know. I'm still not sold, but we're going to find out this weekend for sure because they got their biggest test that they've had all year, 3:30 Saturday.
Well, two things. One, you're right. It is a good hair day for me. Thanks.
You're welcome.
And second of all, I've been watching Tennessee and Georgia, especially, Tennessee, especially after what they did to us. I haven't watched the referees as much. They're a good team too. But I'll let that go. The line's 8.5, Georgia at home. Georgia has reached that plateau to where they're just good, and you're looking for things to discredit them. Right. They are solid. Yeah. Tennessee is still somewhat weak defensively. Statistically, they're not up there. They're still in the bottom third of the country in total defense. I think it'll Tennessee will cover, but Georgia wins. I would dearly love to play Tennessee again. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's a Georgia. It's a dog day afternoon in Athens.
I'm with you, Mo. I would love to play Tennessee again. I just don't see it happening. Yeah. Tennessee's played one road game this year at LSU. Granted, we know how good LSU's playing right now. I just don't think Tennessee's ready to go to Georgia. I could be wrong, but I think Georgia will win the game.
I think that Georgia has enough experience. I think they're solid everywhere. Stetson Bennett is an experienced quarterback, won a national championship last year. Their defense is solid. Now, Jimmy tells me that they did lose one of their best defensive players this past weekend. Don't know how that's going to impact them. For some guys, it makes them step up and play even better. Who knows? But I'll tell you, I think it's going to be a really good football game. I'm interested to see it just because of the way Tennessee has played this year. I'm interested to see, and I think it's the toughest game that Georgia's played all year. I don't think Georgia's played a very difficult schedule. You can say, wow, look at Oregon, but then you got to go and look at who Oregon has played since Georgia. And so, again, there's debate about that. But I do believe Georgia will win the football game. I believe it'll be close. I believe Tennessee will cover, but I do believe Georgia will win the football game. For us, Saturday night, 7:00 Eastern time, Death Valley, we have to come out and play the best football game that we've played yet. And I still don't – you made a comment last week, Jimmy. We haven't played a complete game on offense and defense and special teams all year long.
Right.
And we got to do that Saturday night.
Of course we do. And that's really – you can say that every week, honestly. But you're right. There's teams that we play where we don't necessarily have to play our best and we can beat. And of course, because we've only lost one game this year, we can say that. But you're right. Everything's got to work. Again, we talk about it again. This is all the cliches. The penalties. Well, obviously, we only had 3 or 4 the last game. If we cut out the penalties, cut out those mental mistakes, on the road, which again, we haven't been able to do lately, it didn't seem like, and we play again up to our abilities and our standard, then yes, we should win the game.
Maurice, before you chime in, I want to say this. I think we all can agree, maybe I'm wrong. We played the worst half of football against Tennessee that I've seen in the first half. And we can't do that and beat good teams. Tennessee's clearly a good team. We can't go Saturday night to LSU and struggle in either half and beat LSU. You know, we played a good first half against Mississippi State and came out in the second half and offensively stunk it up. We can't do that. And of course, then you know come back next weekend and you got Ole Miss. We have got to start, and I believe it has to start this weekend, and maybe it started 2 weeks ago with Mississippi State, but we have to start putting 60 minutes of offense, defense, and special teams for us to be able to have a chance to get to SEC championship game.
Well, I'm also at that point that if there's one or two series and you see somebody not going 100%, it's time to yank them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say yank them, they're so far behind you that they can't even see the game. That's how far deep on the bench that they are, because enough's enough, and our backs are against the wall. Second thing is, can somebody explain to me why Kool-Aid is always being instructed to fair catch on punts? He hasn't. Jimmy, when was the last time he actually returned a punt? He was leading the country, and I don't know why we've been so reserved with it.
Yeah, it's been 3 games ago, I think.
Yeah, it's what we've said. Listen, I used to say it all the time. I mean, we got to try to take advantage of athletic ability and dynamic players and give them a chance to break something open. You know, sometimes, right. But is that the attitude that we talk about? We're playing it too safe. We're playing not to lose.
Right.
I mean, we got to play to win.
If he's back there, it's, you know, let's go back to like when Tua got hurt and Saban had to defend, which I didn't have a problem with. He wanted to play. He's there to play. He plays. All right. Well, if your concern is you don't want Kool-Aid to get hurt, well, then don't put him back there.
Put somebody else
Put
there.
somebody else. Put Jalen Milroe. He's an athlete. Put him on the field. But, you know, do something. You know, standing around not doing anything is not helping.
Agree 100%. I believe it's exactly what we said last week and what we just said. We got to play to win and not to lose. We need to start allowing playmakers to make plays. You know, we talk about it all the time. We do that for Jahmyr Gibbs. We give him the ball 20 times a game because he's a playmaker and he's good out in space. Well, Kool-Aid's a playmaker. You know what? Let him take some chances sometimes. If you trust him to be back there, trust him to make a decision and make a play. And Amen. So I agree 100% with that. But it's going to be required. We're going to have to start doing those things going forward if we're going to have a chance to win out and then to show up and play a Georgia or a Tennessee in the SEC championship game. I think that we have a good enough team. Clearly, as bad as we played against Tennessee, we still had a chance to win the game. 17 penalties, horrible first half, 28-10, I think it was. I mean, and then we still have a chance to win the game in the last few seconds and miss a field goal. So, we clearly have a good enough team to win. We just got to put it all together, and we need to start seeing that.
I think we've met our quota on nail biters this position. I'm good.
100% agree with that. All right, real quick, Maurice, before we go, prediction for LSU.
They'll probably, what'd you say the line was, Jimmy?
12.5.
12.5.
I'll grab the points, but Bama wins. I'm going to say 37-28.
37-28.
We've talked about, again, being consistent, both sides of the ball showing up. I want to see us get off to a good start on the road. I miss those days where you look up and it's 14-0 at the end of the first quarter, or 17-0, or 28-7 going into half. I miss those days. I'm going to be curious to see how we start the game. If we start strong, again, limit those mistakes, I think we'll handle our business. I mean, I don't know if we'll cover. I think we'll win fairly easily. Maybe they get some late touchdown, do some kind of backdoor cover, but I think we'll control the game. I think I'm looking at I think we'll score probably 40 points against them and maybe give up 20.
I'm going to say 38-17. Man, I hope I'm wrong. I hope our offense shows me more than what we've been seeing, but I haven't seen it enough. I don't have the confidence to say we're going to score 40-plus points. Just haven't seen it a lot. I'll say 38-17, Tide wins, and I agree. If we can start out strong, I think that'll give us enough momentum, and I think it'll give the defense some momentum, and I think we'll end up finishing out the Tigers in Death Valley. So be interesting to watch. I'm sure we'll be talking throughout the game. Keep your phones on charge. Make sure we're ready to chat. And we'll come back next week and we'll talk about it, and hopefully we'll be discussing a Tide win. Tide fans, next week right here on Channel 207 in Beam, and Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.